Hello. Today we are going to do a review lesson on Unit 1 on the global tapestry 1200 to 1450, and we're going to focus, remember, all of these review lessons, we're going to focus heavily on the AP reasoning processes, historical thinking skills, and themes. So the main theme that we'll probably end up talking about today is governance. And of course, as you know, because you're reading all of those themes every day and getting all excited about them, remember that governance is a variety of internal and external factors that contribute to state formation, expansion, and decline. Remember that governments maintain order through a variety of administrative institutions, policies, and procedures, and governments obtain, retain, and exercise power in different ways and for different purposes. We're going to see that in a couple of places today in this review lesson. The first place we'll see that is with in South Asia, but then we'll also look briefly at Dar al-Islam. So remember, in South Asia in this period, in Unit 1, South Asia, of course, means India. Remember that Muslims established the Delhi Sultanate in the north, which we'll talk about in a moment, but that Hindu kingdoms continued to wield considerable influence elsewhere. And remember especially that two brothers, Harihara and Bukaraya, left the Delhi Sultanate, convert from Islam back to Hinduism, and established the Vijayanagara Empire in 1336. Hindu ideas are intertwined with South Asian cultural norms, and that is especially evident, as you'll recall, in the caste system. Remember, of course, when Arjuna says to Govinda, "Having regard to your duty, you ought not falter, for there is nothing better for a Kshatriya than" what? Remember? There's nothing better for a Kshatriya than a righteous battle. Remember that caste system creates a rigid social structure. And what that means for us, since we're thinking historical thinking skills, AP processes, reasoning processes, that means that rigid cultural structures create cultural continuity between various periods. It's much harder to bring about social change if you've got something like a caste system in place. That was not so true for within the Delhi Sultanate. So let's move now to Dar al-Islam. So thinking about state building in Dar al-Islam, you will recall that that simply means everywhere that Islam is. And remember when we talked about the first dynasties of Islam, of the Umayyad and then the Abbasid, that there is a political shift in Islam, that the religion continues to spread, but the Abbasid have trouble holding their political system together. They create wonderful sort of universities and medical facilities and things like that through the House of Wisdom in Baghdad, but they have trouble holding on to their political system or establishing lasting political authority through bureaucracies. That would not be true elsewhere in Dar al-Islam. So in South Asia, India, in the 1200s, you'll recall that the Turks carry Islam to India and establish the Delhi Sultanate. In Delhi, for geographic reasons as much as anything, it's in between the Punjab and the Indus and the Ganges, the rivers. And so they established the Delhi Sultanate in 1206. Because Hinduism it structures all of Indian society, it's a major shift from a caste system to a Muslim political or social authority. So in fact, many of the original Muslims who arrive are seen as outsiders, as foreigners. They're rejected. So they have trouble accepting that Allah, in the same way that they had accepted for thousands of years, their place in a caste system. Remember that caste system is going to determine your work, your family life, who you marry, what you wear, what you eat. And on the other hand, the sultans of the Delhi Sultanate are basing their system on the Quran and on Sharia law. They would permit non-Muslims as everywhere, but those non-Muslims would be subject to the non-Muslim tax. What was that called again? Oh yeah, that tax is called the jizya, right? So, but conversion, as opposed to some other places in the Islamic empires, conversion rates were not very high in this area. The political structure is now Muslim, but because they're resented as outsiders and because conversion is not required, they actually rule through Hindu kings. They have trouble imposing their policy or maintaining rule across generations. Remember that without bureaucracy, there is no state. And so in the 14th century, the sultans command a massive army, 300,000 people, in the biggest army in the whole Islamic state, probably. They use their army in raids along the Deccan region. But they have no permanent bureaucracy, and little administrative apparatus. So they rely on Hindu kings to carry out their policies, and so that would allow the religion to develop, but doesn't allow for governance. It doesn't allow for Muslim political authority to span down through the ages. They do have some success with converting among the lowest castes. I think this is really interesting, because think about it. If you're in the lowest caste and you have the offer of joining this religion that is a religion of equality, and name anyway, a religion of equality, that it's a good way to escape being Purusha's feet, which is a life that only offers you, the hope that you would work out enough karma to be born in the next life as something other than the lowest caste level. So that is the Delhi Sultanate. Islam is going to exist a little bit differently in West Africa. Remember that it's really commerce that will help Islam spread there. Remember also that this is very common, that since Muhammad was a merchant, many of the stories of the Quran were related to trade. So Islam often spreads through trade. In this place in West Africa, we're really talking about commercial Muslim empires in urban areas, in Ghana and Mali and Songhai. And in those places, Islam will spread through all levels of government. And of course, you remember the stories when the ruler of Mali, Mansa Musa, went on his Hajj to Mecca with his magnificent wealth and all of that. Muslims are crucial to this Afro-Eurasian trade network. And they would come up with certain forms of economic systems that would then sort of blend over into, do you see that, blend over into their political systems, things like credit and contracts and even banking. Those innovations would really spread. The Abbasid would make improvements in Chinese paper making. Why does that matter? Well, when you can write stuff down, you can hold people accountable, you can control. I mean, paper is control, right? We've seen this for thousands of years. And so in Mali, for instance, they're able to set up a complex bureaucratic administration, territorial governors, tax and trade policy, and all of that is because of their literacy. So their governance then is related to their faith, at least somewhat, and that is related to their ideas of how these institutions are going to exist. And so what we'll see next time is that we're going to look at these few kingdoms in the context, or as context, for our very first 5-source DBQ, which is super exciting. Somewhere way